Chapter 47 of JinPingMei Original Version. Mao King was greedy for money and harmed his master, while Ximen violated the law and received stolen goods. It is said that in Guangling City, Yangzhou, Jiangnan, there was a Mao member named Mao Tingshu. The family has a lot of money and is very good at poetry and etiquette. He is 40 years old and has no children except one daughter who was not yet married. His wife, Mrs. Li, was suffering from a serious illness and was in bed. She left all the housework to her doting concubine, Mrs. Dao, whose name was Dao Kaier. Originally a prostitute, Tingshu used 300 taels of silver to marry her into the family, made her his concubine, and doted on her extremely. Suddenly one day, an old monk came to beg for alms at the door. He claimed to be a monk from Bowen Temple in Tokyo, because there was a gold-plated bronze arhat in the hall. He wandered here to visit and record good deeds. When Tingshu asked, he was generous and gave 50 taels of silver to the monk. The monk said, "You don't need a lot. Half is enough." Tingshu said, "My master is not too small. After removing the Buddha statues, the rest can be used for fasting." The monk inquired and thanked me. And before leaving, he said to Tingshu, "There is a dead air under Yuanwei's left eye socket. Unless this year comes, there will be a big disaster. You have such a good relationship with me. How dare I not tell you in advance? From now on, if something happens, don't leave the country. Stay safe." After finishing speaking, he left with his speech. Half a month later, Tingshu accidentally visited the back garden and saw his family member Mao King whispering to Dao's pavilion. Unexpectedly, Tingshu saw him and involuntarily beat Mao King and vowed to drive him away. Mao King was frightened, and her relatives and neighbors in the central government repeatedly persuaded her to stay, but she finally hated him. Unexpectedly, there was Tingshu's cousin Huang Mei, who was originally from Yangzhou and was born in Jiren. He worked as a general judge in Kaifeng Prefecture in Tokyo and was also a knowledgeable person. One day, I sent a letter to Tingshu, asking Tingshu to go to Tokyo, one to have fun, and the other to seek his future. Mao Tingshu was overjoyed to receive the letter, because he said to his wife and concubines, "Tokyo is the land of chariots and has prosperous scenery. I have long wanted to visit, but I can't help it. I don't expect my cousin to write to me now. It really comforts me in my life." His wife, Mrs. Li, then said, "The monks warned you the other day that there was some calamity on your face and told you not to go out. It's a long way to go to Kyoto. Besides, you have a lot of belongings. You have left your young daughter and your sick wife at home. You haven't considered what your future will be like before you go. It's better not to go out. Do good." Tingshu didn't listen, but got angry and scolded, saying, "A man was born between heaven and earth, with a mulberry arc and a fluffy arrow. He cannot travel around the world to see the glory of his country. It is useless to just grow old and die in the cave. Besides, I have something in my chest and more money in my pocket. Why worry about not getting the fame? My cousin will do good things for me when I go here. Don't say anything." So he ordered his family, Mao King, to pack his luggage and clothes, packed more boxes of gold and silver, load a boatload of goods, and bring a safe tongue, and Mao King went to Tokyo. He asked his wife and concubines to stay at home and set off on a certain day. It was the end of autumn and the beginning of winter. We boarded the ship from Yangzhou Pier and traveled for several days to Shuzhouhang. But seeing a flash of water, it was very sinister. But see, the floods thousands of miles long seemed to be pouring. The islands flowing eastward are like thunder, and the torrential snow waves are scary. Who would not be surprised when a traveler encounters them? Passing by Shanwan, a place named Shaanxi Bay, the Mao members saw the sky was getting dark and ordered the boatmen to moor the boat. It was also the end of the day, so something happened, but unexpectedly the ship we boarded was a pirate ship. The two boatmen are both evil people. One is named Chen San and the other is Wang Ba. As the saying goes, if you don't care about your family, you can't care about the family ghosts. This Mao King hated the family master deeply and wanted to avenge him for being scolded a few days ago. He kept silent and said in his heart, "It's better for me to do this and work with the boatmen to kill the family master and push him into the water. I will share all the property in the house." I will kill the sick woman again when I go back. I will bear all this division of property and even the Dao family. Exactly. There are still thorns hidden under the branches and leaves of flowers. So how can one's heart not be poisonous? Mao King then discussed closely with the two boatmen and said, my master's suitcase also has 1,000 taels of gold and silver, 2,000 taels of satin, and a wide range of clothes. If you two can plan this, I would like to help you divide this equally. Chen Sen and Wang Ba smiled and said, if you didn't say anything, we would have had this intention for a long time. It was a dark night. Mao Tiangshu and Nantong were sleeping in the middle cabin, and Mao King was behind the oar. At about 3 o'clock in the morning, Mao King deliberately shouted that there was a thief. Mao Tiangshu woke up from his dream and went outside the cabin to take a look. He was stabbed in the lower part of the neck by Chen San with a sharp knife and pushed into the flood. When Nantong was about to leave, he was knocked into the water by the 81 sap. The three of them opened the box and cage in the cabin and took out a fortune of silk, gold and silver, as well as satin and clothes, and divided the points equally. The second boatman said, if I keep this goods, I will definitely commit a crime. You are one of his family members. If you carry this goods to the market to sell, no one will believe it. So the second boatman took all the 1,000 taels of gold and silver in the suitcase, divided them with the Mao members' outer clothes, and punted back. This Mao King took another boat and took it to Lynching Wharf. After passing the banknotes, he loaded them into the official store outside King County and unloaded them. When he saw the old merchants in Yangzhou, he only said, the owner of the family is on the back boat, so he will come. This Mao King sells goods in the store, no problem. As the saying goes, people are like this, and nature has not yet been so. Poor Mao members are always kind, but once they are harmed by their servants, they will die badly. Even if they don't take the advice of loyal people, most of them will not be able to escape. Unexpectedly, Tong was knocked unconscious by a stick. Although he fell into the water, he survived and floated to Lugong. Suddenly, a fishing boat was propped up. There was an old man sitting on the boat, with a bamboo hat on his head and a short rain cap on his body. He heard the sound of crying. When I moved the boat to take a look, I found a boy of 17 or 18 years old, and I hurriedly saved him. When asked about the whole story, it turned out that Tong, the mother-in-law of a Mao member from Yangzhou, was robbed in Hongshang. The fisherman took him off the boat, changed his clothes, gave him food and drink, and asked him, you want to go back, but you want to live here with me? Tong cried, the master is in trouble and his whereabouts are missing. How can he return home? Go in. I would like to stay here with my father-in-law, the fisherman said. That's all right. Just stay with me and wait until I slowly find out who the thief is for you, and then I'll take care of it. Tong thanked his father-in-law and lived in the Wang family here. One day, there is something to do. At the end of the year, the fisherman suddenly took Tong out of the river mouth to sell fish. He happened to see Chen San and Wang Ba drinking on the boat. They were wearing his master's clothes and came ashore to buy fish. Tong recognized it and secretly said to the fisherman, the master's injustice should be put to rest. The fisherman said, why don't you file a complaint and file a lawsuit? Tong filed the complaint to the Shunhazhou garrison. Seeing that there was no proof of stolen goods, the guard refused to accept the complaint. He was also sued to Tixingyuan. Jia Tixing saw that it was a robber who took people's lives, so he approved the case. On the 14th day of the first lunar month, an official was sent to arrest the official, and Tong was escorted down to retrieve him. When they arrived at Shinhaku, they only brought Chen Sen and Wang Bahuo to the case and questioned them. Seeing that Tong was holding the witness, the second captain didn't have to punish him, so he attacked him one by one. The confession stated, at the time of the attack, there was also his family member, Mao King, who murdered his family head and divided the spoils. The three were imprisoned here, and people were sent to interview Mao King and convict them together. Due to the holidays, the officials who had ordered the punishment did not come to the Yamen for 2 days to ask questions. Someone from the Yamen had already secretly reported this matter to Mao King. Mao King panicked, locked the door of the store, and secretly hid in the manager Lisan's house. This Lisan lived next door to Han Dao Guoguo on Lion Street. His wife Lisan's sister-in-law had a very good relationship with Wang Liuer and often came to Wang Liuer's place to keep him company. When Wang Liuer had nothing to do, he would often go to his house and fight each other lively. Seeing Mao Qing's worried look, Lisan asked why and said, "It doesn't matter. The Han family next to me is the aunt who sentenced Simon's father, and he is also his family's assistant. We have a good relationship with my family. What's going on? If you want to keep you safe, no matter how many things you break, teach my family to go over and talk to his family." After hearing this, Mao Qing hurriedly knelt down and said, "But there is nothing wrong with me. I will repay my kindness, and I dare not forget it." So he wrote a note and sealed it with 50 taels of silver and 2 sets of satin clothes. Lisan asked his wife to take them and set this to Wang Liuer. Wang Liuer either liked it or not, so he took all the clothes, money and invitations, and waited for Simon King alone, but he didn't come. Towards the west of the 17th, I saw Dian coming from the middle of the street with a felt bag under his arm and riding on Tuku. Wang Liuer was at the door. He called him down and asked, "Where are you going?" Dian said, "Dad and I took a long trip to deliver gifts to Dongbing Mansion." Wang Liuer said, "Has your father come now?" Dian said, "Dad and Baici went home first." Wang Liuer then called him in, talked to him like this, and showed him the post. Dian said, "Anton, take care of this. Don't take it lightly. Now the 2 boatmen are in custody in the Yemen. He is the only one who has to provide for me, even if I bring a few taels of silver. It is not enough to send the people under my feet. I don't care about other accounts." Anton told him that he will only give me 20 taels of silver when I invite my father to come. "It's up to you and my dad to tell you." Wang Liuer smiled and said, "You're a glib guy. You'll get angry if you ask for food. Now that it's done, what's the big deal about you? We'd rather not have it than you." Dian said, "Anton, that's not what you said. As the saying goes, a gentleman is not shy in person. Break it off first and discuss it later." Wang Liuer immediately prepared some dishes and left Dian to drink. Dian said, "My head and face are red after eating. I am afraid that I will go home and ask my father. But how will I go back to my father?" Wang Liuer said, "What are you afraid of? Just say you come to my place." Dian only ate 1 bowl and laughed. Wang Liuer said, "I'm tired of you anyway, so I'm waiting here." Dian kept coming home and handed over felt bags. After waiting, Simon King came out from his sleep and sat in the side room. Dan slowly walked up to him and said, "When I came back, Anton called me to stop me and asked my father to come over quickly. I have something important to say to him." Simon King said, "What are you talking about? I understand." After finishing speaking, Liu Zuguan came to borrow money. After sending Liu Zuguan away, Simon King rode a horse, wearing a gauze and a small hat, and asked Dian and Qintong to follow him to Wang Liuer's house. He dismounted and went in, and sat down in the bright room. Wang Liuer came out to pay his respects. That day, Han Daobo stayed in his shop but did not come home. My wife bought a lot of things and asked Lao Feng to clean them up in the kitchen. Seeing Simon King coming, he hurriedly handed over the tea. Simon King told Qintong, "Send the horse to the house opposite and close the door." The woman didn't dare to mention the matter, so she just said, "It's been hard work at my father's house setting up wine all day long. I heard that my brother is getting married. I'm so happy for you." Simon King said, "It's just because Wu Dajin mentioned it to me when I gave up my marriage and made this marriage with the Kiao family. There is only one girl in his family, and she is not a good match, so she just kissed her randomly." Wang Liuer said, "It's okay to get married to him, but my father now lives as a senior official, so I'm embarrassed to be here." Simon King said, "What are you talking about?" After saying this, his wife said, "I'm just afraid that Dad will be cold, so just sit in the room." On one side, Simon King moved into the room, where a chair was placed with a brazier on it, and Simon King sat down. The woman slowly took Mao King's post and showed it to Simon King. She said, "He asked the manager Lisaniang to come over and say to me, 'This Mao King is a customer in his shop.' In this way, he was dragged by the boatmen. I just hope that his name will not be mentioned and he will not be mentioned. He has prepared some gifts to thank me here. At least I hope Dad will deal with him." Simon King read the post and asked, "How many gifts did he get to thank you?" Wang Liuer took out 50 taels of silver from the box and showed it to Simon King, saying, "If things are done tomorrow, I will give you 2 sets of clothes." Simon King looked at it and said with a smile, "These things, what do you want him to do?" "You don't know. This Mao King is a member of the Yangzhou Mao Yuan family, because he killed the family owner on the boat with 2 boatmen and threw him into the river to make money, seeking to find his body. And Tong, a young boy who came with him, and 2 boatmen, 3 officials, wanted him. This is definitely a lingering crime. Those 2 are real criminals, beheaded." The 2 boatmen saw that he had 2,000 taels of silver on them. What were they doing with the money? "Send it to him quickly." Wang Liuer went to the kitchen and asked the girl Jenner to give Lisan. The lady called over, handed him the original gift, and said this to him. Mao King refused to listen. After hearing what he said, it was like a bucket of water poured against the door and poured down to the soles of his feet. Exactly. Open the 6 leaves, connect the liver and lungs, frighten the 3 souls and 7 souls. That is to say, Lisan was invited to discuss. "I would rather spend all the 2,000 goods and silver, as long as I can save my life." Lisan said, "Now that my father has said this, some and a half will always be untouchable. The 2 officials must collect 1,000 goods to give him. The remaining sections, original solutions, and rests will have to get another half. It has to be enough." Mao King said, "Since my goods haven't been sold, how about asking for money?" He sent Lisan Cao to come and said to Wang Liuer, "I want the goods. I'll give you 1,000 taels of silver. If you don't want it, I'll give it to you. I hope my father will give me another 2 or 3 days of grace. When I tell the price and sell the goods, I will personally go to my father's house to give him a gift." Wang Liuer took the gift card and went back to the room to look at it with Simon King. Simon King said, "Since it is so good, I tell Yuan Ji to give him a few days of grace and teach him to come even if he comes." Now Mrs. Lisani got this word and repaid Mao King. Mao King was filled with joy. When Simon King saw someone in the next room, he didn't dare to sit for a long time. After drinking for a few minutes, he sat back with his wife. When he saw a horse coming to pick him up, he got up and went home. The next day, I went to the Yamen to distribute the money early without asking any questions about it. Mao King asked his agent Lisan to meet with people for him overnight and try the goods out. After 3 days, they were all gone, and they were sold for a total of 1,700 taels of silver. They left the original and Wang Liuer's belongings intact and added 50 taels of silver and 4 sets of colored clothes. On the 19th, Mao King collected 1,000 taels of silver, put them in 4 wine jars, and slaughtered another pig. After making an appointment to hold the lantern, he carried it to the head of JinPingMei Gate. Everyone under my command knows that the 4 families of Dian, Pingan, Shatong, and Qintong only paid 10 taels of silver. Dian is on Wang Liuer's side, and the latter already requires another 10 taels of silver. After a while, Simon King came out. Those who were sitting in the rolling shed did not hold the lamps. They came up under the dim moonlight and brought them to his face. Mao King, who was wearing Xingyi, looked at Simon King and kowtowed, saying, "This little man has received great kindness from his father, and it is hard to repay him with his body broken into pieces." Simon King said, "I have not yet tried to interrogate you in this matter. Those 2 boatmen are very interested in you. If you become an official, you will also be charged with the boss. Since they said, 'I will spare your death,' I will give you this gift. If I don't take it from you, you won't worry. I will also give you half of it to punish Father Jia as a share. You can't stay for a long time, even if you go back at night." Because he asked, "Where are you in Yangzhou?" Mao King kowtowed and said, "The younger one lives in Yangzhou City." Simon King ordered tea to be brought from behind. Mao King ate it standing under the pine tree. kowtowed and said goodbye before going back. He called him back and asked, "Have you told him the original explanation below?" Mao King said, "Young man, I have already said it." Simon King ordered, Now that I have said it, you can go home." Mao King went out and walked to Lisan's house to pack his luggage. He still had 150 taels of silver left. Mao King took out 50 taels and a few bolts of satin, and thanked Lisan and his wife. On the 5th day of the lunar month, he hired a captain to drive the livestock for him, and he got up and went to Yangzhou. Exactly, being busy is like a lost dog, and being anxious is like a fish that has slipped through the net. Not to mention that Mao King escaped with his life. The next day, Simon King and Jia Tixing dispersed from the Yamen and rode together. When they reached the entrance of the main street, Jia Tixing was about to make a speech to separate the way. Simon King held up his riding whip on his horse and said, "Sir, if you don't give up, I will talk to you next to my house. Invite Jia Tixing home." Entering the hall, the ceremony was celebrated, and the guests were invited into the rolling booth. They put on their clothes and took tea from left and right. Shetong and Dian set the table and seats. Jia Tixing said, "You shouldn't disturb the chief during your free time." Simon King said, "This is unreasonable." After a while, two boys used square boxes to place various chickens, hooves, geese, ducks, and fresh fish for dinner. After eating first, we took the guys away and brought out all the vegetables and wine. The little golden bell and the silver plate pour the wine slowly. During the drinking session, Simon Qingfang mentioned Mao King's matter, and said, "Yesterday, this guy asked a scholar to come and tell the students again and again, and gave some gifts here. The students don't dare to do it alone, so today we invite the chief to come. Discuss with the superior." So he handed the gift card to Jia Tixing. Jia Tixing looked at it and said, "I will punish you according to the superior's respect." Simon King said, "According to the students, I will only send the thief and the real stolen goods over tomorrow. And there is no need for Mao King." The plaintiff and Tong took them outside. When Mao Tiangshu's body was found, the conclusion was not yet too late. The gift was sent to the chief. Jia Tixing said, "Sir, this is not the case. Your Majesty sees it very well. This is why your Majesty has so much trouble. Why should you give in to me? You will definitely not do it." After refusing each other for a long time, Simon King had no choice but to divide the gift between the two families and put 500 taels in the food box. Jia Tixing came down from the banquet, bowed and thanked him, and said, "Since you are a senior officer, I would like to resign. It would be too arrogant for my student to resign. I cannot thank you enough for your kindness. I am really ashamed." After receiving a few more glasses of wine, he said goodbye and stood up. Simon King immediately sent Dian to get the food box and also served it as one to be carried to Jia Tixing's house. Jia Tixing accepted it at the door, took the reply note, and rewarded Dan with 2 taels of silver, and to platoon soldiers with fur coins, all of which were nothing to mention. As the saying goes, when the fire is enough, the pig's head is rotten, but when the money is enough, it is time to do business. The punishments of Simon King and Jia T have been decided. The next day, I went to the Yamen to be promoted to the office. The charges, arrests, and investigations were all taken care of by Lisan. The torture tools were ranged, and the prisoner asked Chen San and Wing Ba for the reason for interrogation. But they only confessed. They conspired with Mao King, a member of the Yi family. Simon King was furious and ordered everyone around him, "I'll punish you. You 2 thieves have been in the river for many years. Under the guise of loading boats, you are actually robbing gangs, digging leaks, and inviting travelers to make money. Fatal." Seeing that this boy confessed that you were the one who killed Mao Jianshu Bozhong with a knife, and then injured him with a stick and fell into the water. Seeing that his master's clothes are there to prove it, how can you deny others? Because Tong was mentioned. He came up and asked, "Who stabbed your master to death? Who pushed you in the water?" And Tong said, "At 3 o'clock one day, Mao King first called out that there was a thief, and the young master went out to watch. But Chen Sanyi he was killed with a knife and pushed into the water. The younger one was beaten into the water by Wang Bai and had to escape with his life. Mao King's whereabouts are unknown." Simon King said, "According to what this young man said, it is the truth. How can you survive? So each person had 2 sticks and 30 hammers, and the tibias were broken when they were beaten, and the pigs were killed like shouting. Most of the 1,000 tales of stolen goods have been recovered, and the rest has been spent. Here, documents were prepared for the punishment, and the stolen goods were reported to Dongping Mansion. The governor Hu Shiwen met Simon King again and folded the case files according to the original documents, and accused Chen San and Wang Bao of being robbers and murderers. And Tong Bao was waiting outside. One day, I walked to Tokyo and went to Huangtong's Yamen in Kaifeng Prefecture. He complained Mao King took away the master's family affairs and made money to be punished in the Yamen. All but his name came out. When will the master's grievances be avenged? Tong Bing heard this, repaired the book all night, sealed it with his complaint, asked him for money, and sent him to the Shandong Procuratorate to surrender. As a result, the trouble of disciplining Mao King started from the beginning. Simon King had done things in the past and was not happy now. There is poetry to prove it. Good and evil always have their cousins, and good and bad fortunes go hand in hand. Never do anything wrong in your life, and don't be surprised if you knock on the door in the middle of the night.
Alright, this part of the story ends here.
Want to know what happened next? Let's listen to the breakdown next time.
Alright, this part of the story ends here.
Want to know what happened next? Let's listen to the breakdown next time.